welcome to Tech Talk. I'm Ryan Bowman with Brian East from Connect Us for this week's episode. How we all doing out there? This week, we have a special guest. We have Angelo Rodriguez from ZeroTier. So, Angelo, I will kick it over to you to kind of give us an introduction of who you are, and we can kind of go from there.
Awesome. No, I appreciate it, Ryan and Brian. Good to see you guys again. So Angelo Rodriguez, I am the VP of Sales and Services for ZeroTier. So VP of Sales, Head of Sales, basically everything that's kind of revenue generating is under my umbrella. But I've been over here at ZeroTier for the last 4 months, and before that, Ryan, as you know, I was a Verizon alumni, so was with Verizon for a long time. So glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us today, for sure. Yes, a little bit of history there over in the cellular world and Verizon, and good times over there. Lots of experience, so that was helpful.
Yeah.
Everybody I work with used to work at Verizon.
At some point in your career, right?
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need decoder rings or something, you know?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I need to get like
Right.
a little ring here.
Yeah.
We should work on that, Ryan.
Nice. That's awesome. And I'm in a similar position, right? As far as my experience kind of coordinates really well there as well. My last 4 months with Connect Us, and it's been really cool. So ZeroTier. So tell us a little bit about ZeroTier, because again, we had a lot of experience on the wireless side. But coming over to this side of life where we're a partner and we're kind of helping different customers with different IT solutions and security solutions, kind of a unique solution you have over there. It's pretty awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'll kind of talk you guys through a little bit what ZeroTier is, but it might be helpful to kind of provide some context, a little story about how I discovered ZeroTier. So as you know, I mentioned earlier, previous to this role, I worked for Verizon. I was leading a region for Verizon as a director. And toward the end of last year, I was reached out to, had an executive recruiter who reached out and was talking about ZeroTier and what this company was working on. And it was new to me. And so, I'm very familiar with the space, obviously, but wasn't very familiar with the ZeroTier product. And so I spent some time kind of playing around with it. And when I did, it was like mind blown moment when I saw how fast it worked. And so I'll give you kind of a quick overview of what ZeroTier is and some of the problems that we're solving. But the simplest way to think about ZeroTier is it's really a software-defined networking solution and a VPN solution kind of combined. And so it's network virtualization platform that really allows you to connect any device anywhere in the world securely. The difference is the speed and simplicity that we're able to do that with. And so you're a customer who is deploying potentially hundreds of endpoints. An endpoint could be a user. It could be a router, an IoT device, a connected car, any number of things anywhere in the world, and we connect all of those resources simply and securely. And so you could spin up a private network really in minutes that otherwise might take you, Ryan, as a former Verizon guy, a traditional private network on the wireless side of the house could take weeks to spin up. And so we solve that in a way that's a lot simpler. That is really our purpose, is to decentralize and simplify networking so that anyone can connect to any of the resources they need in the quickest, most efficient way possible. And so the company started back in 2015. Back then, there weren't many companies in this space, kind of this new wave of networking technology. Now there have been, some other startups that have kind of come up in this space, but we've scaled pretty quickly. We've got 750,000, plus users, 3 million devices actively managed across our global network in 192 plus countries. And so that's really what ZeroTier is. And then, from from the perspective of what is the pain that we're solving for, and both of you know this because you live in this world, but COVID really accelerated, this digital transformation. I always like to explain it as like we hit the fast forward button on digital transformation by about 5 to 7 years. And old network infrastructure architecture is struggling to keep up with that demand. And so the question is, how do I connect users across, multiple cloud regions, all over the country or all over the world? Some of them are on premise in a traditional office. Some of them are in a remote office. Some are working purely remote. And so how do I, as an IT professional, connect all of those users to all the things they need to access in a way that's secure, and I can manage that all through one single pane of glass? And what we found is that a lot of customers are using, traditional VPNs. And as you know, one of the challenges with traditional VPNs and traditional private networks is you have this kind of single point of failure. All of my traffic is routed through this gateway, which is slow. No one says, "Oh, I love my VPN. My VPN is awesome." That never happens, And so for a faster, easier way to do it, and that's really what ZeroTier does.
Okay, totally makes sense. I like that because I don't know anyone who's jumping for joy when they find out they have to use the VPN, right?
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's
it's a bottleneck. So. Yep.
Is this does this install a client on each device? Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's client based, and so the way that this works is you install a client on whatever device it is that you're looking to manage. And so where we differentiate a bit is most companies in this space are focused just on people, right? How do I connect people to other people or connect people to resources? We are able to do that, and that's a big part of our business. You have an application that's installed in your MacBook, and you're accessing resources that maybe are back at headquarters or back sitting in the Google Cloud or AWS. We do that all day, every day. But what's different is that we also have this line of business or this segment, which is people who are not just connecting people to resources, but also things to things. So routers, IoT devices, right? Smart alarm systems to connected devices. We're able to run our application on complicated pieces of equipment, but also what I like to say is kind of the dumbest connected device, right? The simplest, smallest connected device. We're able to install a client on that endpoint and then manage that device instantly. And so the second you have that thing installed and you can join our network, it's live, and I can see that device right away.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so it's we've got a lot of our customers fall into a couple of key categories. You've got your managed service providers. Think about the companies that are managing IT resources for other companies. For them, it's like, hey, I've got 50 different clients. They've got 50 different networks. I don't own any of those networks. And I need to be able to help manage their infrastructure remotely and be able to play with 50 different network architectures. And how do I do that in a way that scales and it's quick and simple? That's where ZeroTier comes in. And then, of course, you have this base of companies that are building something. They're building some kind of connected device or a platform, and they're looking for that, security and, management layer, that control plane. ZeroTier, in that sense, serves as a piece of their overall solution.
Nice. Yeah, no, so you have MSPs actually using that solution, and that's how they're actually supporting their customers. That's how they're able to manage and configure and go in and do whatever they need to do all from one pane of glass.
Right, and so it's a common one because companies will ask us. They'll say, "Hey, you know what? I've got all these different customers, and I really need a quick and painless way to be able to remotely access." Their devices, their remote into their network infrastructure. How do I do that in a way that's consistent? And a lot of times, as you know, you're working with lots of different hardware vendors, and so lots of hardware vendors have their own flavor of something. But it's like, what do you use that plays nice with everyone?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a multitude of connectivity options out there, right? I mean, we run into that all the time with customers. So, they're not all just using the same style of internet connectivity. And so that that throws some new challenges into it as well. So as long as they have a connection, they're able to be seen. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And so an entire network goes down at like one of these MSP customers, and they've got a cellular modem for backup, so that kicks in. Then because that's connected to the internet, and if it's got a ZeroTier client on it, can remote into that. And then because it's providing network, you can also remote into all of the devices, and then ultimately try to find that where the bottleneck happened, where the break happens on their primary network.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think the cellular piece, for me, when I joined ZeroTier, I thought was the obvious kind of interconnect for ZeroTier, because it's what you're selling today. Yep. Really helps to enable part of this challenge that customers have, which is, hey, how do I connect to things remotely? How do I enable remote work? How do I provide some additional reliability if our primary connection goes down? Where we come in and say, okay, how do you manage all of those things so it just works? And part of that is setting your network up so that in the event that your primary circuit or connection goes down, that it's failing over to a router, let's say that's provided by an LTE or 5G enabled router that's being provided by ConnectUs. And then in some cases, we're even configuring it. So you say, hey, you know what? I want to know which connection, which path is best for this use case, or what path is best right at this moment for me to be able to pass traffic over. And so we help with that.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
One of the other unique features I saw, maybe you can give us a small list or whatnot. Brian and I actually just spent some time yesterday with Teltonica, and I thought it was rather unique that I'm seeing the ZeroTier, I guess we'll call it the client, is embedded into the router. Is that? Yeah.
So it is. So it's a firmware option on Teltonica routers. What I found interesting when I came over here was the number of router, OEMs that are installing or providing ZeroTier as an option for their customers. Teltonica as an example, TEC as an example, Advantech, I noticed a couple of weeks ago, enabled our software on their routers. And so a lot of that's just being driven because we had this huge community of really, really avid ZeroTier fans. And so they are they're pushing a lot of these OEMs to start to allow ZeroTier to be configured, because for them, they want to use ZeroTier. And so they're looking for an easy kind of zero friction way to be able to deploy. And we're talking to a lot of other OEMs about potentially integrating our software. But even for routers though that don't have ZeroTier as a pre-configured option, we can configure ZeroTier. But we're trying to get to a place where more router OEMs are configuring it out of the box so that our joint customers can go to market faster.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead. No, please.
I would say that's pretty fantastic. You get the OEMs on board. There's a lot of synergy there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And for me, it's really about just trying to make it as simple as possible for customers to be able to deploy.
Where are you seeing a lot of the volume in the customers at this point from a application standpoint as far as what they're using it for?
Yeah, no, I'd love to talk about that. And I actually have a question for you after about what you're seeing. But where we're seeing a lot of interest is, I talked about MSPs, so companies that are providing managed services for other companies. That makes up a pretty large percentage of our base and of our inbound interest. Someone who's saying, hey, I am managing these resources for another company, and I need a way to be able to manage those resources simply, really fast, easier for me to deploy, and it's very reliable and doesn't require a lot of work. And so that's, you know, a growing segment for us. A big one in terms of just volume, Ryan, is IoT. So companies that are building some type of connected device that they're, you know, either embedding our solution into or wrapping our solution around. And, you know, I'll give you a couple of examples. So this is, you know, Apollo Agriculture is a company that uses us for a number of things, but what got us introduced was that traditional VPN use case. You know, this company was impacted, you know, with COVID, and they had to take their call center remote, and they only had a couple of days to do this. And so there weren't many vendors that could help them scale across, you know, as large as their organization was, that could scale to get VPN deployed within a matter of days. And we were able to solve that for them. And so they were really one of our early, you know, I guess you'd say evangelizers that were really excited about our platform and what it was able to accomplish. But we have companies in this ag tech space that are using us for very large deployments of, you know, remote sensors, monitoring things like, you know, soil levels, water, you know, humidity, heat, things like that. A lot of companies are building solutions around ag tech that are embedding ZeroTier in there for remote access and configuration, and then just managing traffic on a global scale. So, you know, ag tech is a big space for us. Companies that are building, you know, connected alarm systems. So we have some large customers all over the world that are building connected, you know, Wi-Fi enabled home alarm or business alarm security systems. And so ZeroTier, because it's a very light application, doesn't require a lot of overhead, they were able to install this on pretty simple Linux boxes. And then they can manage, you know, tens of thousands of customers, even though those networks are being managed by the customer. I don't own that network. It's, you know, it's a customer's home Wi-Fi, but I can still remotely access, you know, provision, diagnose, etc. So we're seeing a lot in that space. A large number of customers or prospects coming to us saying, "Hey, Angelo, I'm working on this new integrated, you know, IoT solution. I'd like to evaluate ZeroTier as a way to be able to connect those things." So that's exciting for me because that's, you know, as you know, that's an area where I'm really passionate, is working with people who are building something. You know, I'm building something unique. I need a way to be able to provide secure remote access, you know, network management, traffic management. That's a space where we're making a significant amount of headway. But I'd love to see, you know, what about Connect Us? You know, what are you seeing in terms of your customer use cases and where you're seeing some pain?
So, yeah, it varies. But I was going to say one of the ones that came to mind was I know we worked together a little bit on a project for access, right? So gate access, entry access to different locations, alarms, and some of that, which is not where I originally would have thought, right? I had that traditional hat on thinking, you know, you mentioned about during COVID, right? I remember we were both at Verizon and there was a lot of scrambling to happen to scale up VPN, right? I mean, we went from, I don't know what the mix was, maybe a 50-50 mix of remote and on-site employees to like 90%, 10% or something. And
right.
So scaling that, those servers up and everything to be able to take that traffic coming in through the VPN was probably ridiculous for the IT load. You know, thankfully we weren't on the IT team, so we didn't have that burden. We just had the experience, I guess I would say, right?
I'm glad someone smarter than us figured it out.
Yes, yeah. But so I always think of VPN and always think like client, laptop, all that. So it's pretty cool to be seeing gate access, alarms, ag tech, and some of the IoT platforms and solutions being used with it.
Yeah. And I think the fact that we do this in a way that, and I don't think I explained this in the beginning, but lots of companies in this space are, you know, having all of your traffic pass through some sort of proxy, and there are some inherent security issues there, right? Is, you know, what level of access do you want someone to have to your data? That should be a concern if you're a security conscious person, you know, which, you know, we are. ZeroTier's job is really just to initiate the connection. You know, so Ryan, you have your device in Pennsylvania. I've got my device here in California. ZeroTier's job is to say, Ryan, I found you on the internet. Angelo, I found you on the internet. I'm going to, meet you guys up. You guys are going to, quick handshake, and then I'm out of the way. I don't want to see your traffic. I don't see your traffic. I don't want to. I don't know what you're passing through there. I don't care to know. That's an important differentiation. Because when you think about zero trust network access, that is really, truly a space that ZeroTier plays in very heavily. But we also have customers who say, hey, you know what? I don't want to touch, I don't want a cloud environment. We're finding more enterprises and resellers who say, you know what? I would love to have a true self-hosted environment. These devices are not touching the internet. Can you support that? And the answer is yes. Nearly, I would say virtually none of our competitors in this kind of new wave of network startups are able to operate in this self-hosted space where it's like, hey, I want to have a box on site and I want to connect all of my devices and they're not going to touch the internet, but I still want that extra layer of ZeroTier management. Can you support that? And the answer is yes. And I expect that as we continue to move up into enterprise, we'll have more customers that are looking for that are say, hey, you know what? I just want this to live and breathe at my factory and nowhere else. Can you support it? And the answer is yes.
That ZTNA facilitation that you're talking about, I used to work for MSP, and we had customers that were, and this was a huge pain point for us, were big medical companies, and so HIPAA compliance, HL7, all of that. ZTNA was very, very, very important, but it was really hard to manage. It was bulky and unwieldy. It felt like it was like Frankenstein's monster being cobbled together.
Yeah, you're spot on. It's difficult, and I think that there are emerging companies, ZeroTier being kind of a leader among them, but that are looking for ways to do that simpler, right? Like, how do I do this in a way that's easy to deploy? And it's not to say that you need more than just secure network access to truly be zero trust. That's one of multiple solutions, but ZeroTier just makes it easy. And so I think a lot of businesses are looking for that easy button, and sometimes in your kind of desire to have something that's easy, you are sacrificing on security. And so we kind of balance both of these. One is we make it easy to deploy and simple to manage. But on the other hand, it's secure versus other companies that are passing off your traffic through a proxy or through a gateway or whatever. There are points of failure and additional points of vulnerability, and so you have to kind of weigh as a IT decision maker. You have to weigh that balance. Balance of what's easy and simple for me to deploy, and also what's going to limit my exposure, so that if something were to happen, that we're not compromised.
That makes sense.
Very nice.
Yeah. Awesome.
No, please.
No, I just, there's a lot to take in there. That was a whole lot. That's awesome though, man. That's a ton of challenges and issues being resolved by one platform. So that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, I think it's just the way to kind of simplify it is like, look, there are platforms. ZeroTier can do a lot of things for a lot of people, but in the simplest way possible. It is the easiest, the simplest, fastest platform I've ever seen to be able to connect your stuff to anything you can connect it to in a way that's really simple and crazy fast.
Yeah,
that's really it. Sure. You let your imagination go from there on how you could potentially use it.
Nice. Yeah. No, that makes sense. That's awesome. So yes.
I appreciate it, man. It's I think what you guys are doing over at Connect Us is really cool. You guys have been a great great partner and great company to work with, and I think there are so many companies that are looking for these problems to be solved. And so I think what you're doing in terms of simplifying, procuring and getting devices set up and configured and making that easy for customers is a huge value add. So I'd love to see what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and you know, we are definitely an advocate of yours. And
We appreciate that.
And yeah, it's awesome.
And likewise.
It's been really good. So yeah, thanks for joining us. And
I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
For all of those tuning in, continue to look out for our posts for what we're doing in the community, and continue to check us out on YouTube and all the other social media platforms that we keep posting videos on. So thank you so much.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Have fun.
Be well.